Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. It is a joy to have this sight this morning on a place like this one, part of the SVD farm. Just a year ago, I remember we are gathered here for the opening of the farm, and now we have this chapel dedicated to the Virgin of the Poor. And at the back of this, I understand there is a construction of the Eco-Spirituality Center, which will be a place where everyone can have their time for silence and prayer. What a wonderful gift from God to gather us together for such a good occasion also, that today, January 29, the SVDs are also celebrating the feast of our missionary to China, Saint Joseph Freinademetz. Palakpakan po natin. There were two missionaries that were first sent to China. Joseph is one of them. The other one is John Janssen. He was a diocesan priest in 1875, and 3 years after, he heard about Arnold Janssen establishing a mission seminary and sending missionaries to foreign missions, particularly China. And he volunteered himself, joined the SVD, and in 1879 was sent to China. He went down from Style to Italy. A port was there, a boat was there, and together with John Janssen, for some 4 or 5 weeks, it traveled from Europe down to Asia, to the middle country we call China, and they landed in Hong Kong. And for 2 years, he studied the language in Hong Kong and the culture. I remember going to that island in Hong Kong. So pag pupunta kayo sa Hong Kong, wag lang doon sa business district. Go and visit the island. I want to remember the name, where Freinademetz stayed for 2 years, and what remains there is the bell that they would predate up to the time of Freinademetz. And 2 years after, they moved upward to South Shantung, the place that is under the protection of the German government. You know, China has been divided by several countries, France, Britain, Germany, Japan. You would feel how they were the imperial countries, the dominating countries, slicing China into their own. And of course, definitely, it's getting the resources of China, bringing it to their back country. Ngayon, parang China na yung ganon. Baliktad na ang mundo. Dati sila ang kinukunan, ngayon sila na ang nangunguha. Dati sila ang sinubjugate. Ngayon, maari, economically, sila na ang nagsasubjugate. You know, bilog ang mundo. And on that protection, we have South Shantung for the SVDs. But where are we coming? Not as a economic political power. We are coming as religious, bringing in faith, not sword, not sourcing any country of its resources, but enriching it by the faith that is grounded on the words of God. It is a missionary impetus that brings us, individual missionaries, to be used by God and by the church to be words lived and proclaimed. And by those impetus, Joseph Freinademetz started the SVD mission in China. At that time, in South Shantung, there were 12 million Chinese and only 158 Christians. Too small a fraction. And no doubt, in the gospel of today, we heard of Christ sending beyond the 12 disciples that we know, are 72 other disciples. It was not a collective gift only for the 12, but rather the word is a collective mission for more than the 12, for more than the 72. For now there are 6,000 SVDs around the world, and more lay people and religious like you who also been baptized and believe in the grounding that that word need to be lived and to transform this world. And we realize Joseph Freinademetz has the fundamentals of what it is to be a missionary. First, it is his deep love in following Jesus. At the beginning, Freinademetz would say, not even for 3,000 coronas, it's not coronavirus, pera yun. I am prepared to leave country, friends, so as to relocate myself in a new world. Kahit bayaran mo ako, hindi ako aalis. But at the opposite, he left, oh yes, style, Europe, and migrated to China. And he never went back to his home place. When he left Austria or Italy now, he never looked back. For Joseph, it was a full dedication that where he was sent, he lived in the midst. For what motive? It was sequela Christi, the heart and core of religious living, to follow Christ. And that Christ is seen in the faces of the Chinese. It is a Jesus that he followed and dedicated himself to learn a new language, to learn a new culture, to learn new ways of life, humbling himself even as a European of that time to his love of God. It was also the reason for him to stress the formation of lay people. It is sharing this word to the laity by the education of catechists. Joseph loves the catechists, and he understood that it was through them that faith can be promoted. He even wrote a manual for catechists in Chinese. I studied Chinese for 20 months. 我说不够啊，不可以，2年不可以，我需要还不到5年。I need 5 years perhaps, the way the other missionaries have grown. But to him, it was a difficult journey, but he was never alone. He realized in all these journeys, it was a following of Jesus. And so difficulties may have come on his way. In 1897, while he was the provincial superior of the China province, 2 German missionaries were murdered in South Shantung. At November 1, 1897, around 11 in the evening, 3 German missionaries were in a house preparing for tomorrow, next day's All Souls Day, and around 20 to 30 bandits entered the missionary house, and in 15 minutes, 2 SVDs were swimming in their own blood. Freinademetz rushed to the area after 1 or 2 days, reported it to the German ambassador based in Beijing. He had to take that 8-day travel to Beijing from South Shantung and to file a protest directly to the Berlin government, the Imperial of Germany. And he reported what happened. And he demanded concessions from the Chinese government to pay back what should not have happened. He was wanting concessions first and foremost to secure the lives of the missionaries, Germans in that sense. It was the time, the seed of the burning of an anti-foreign feeling among the Chinese. There is a historical understanding of this particular event. It was not just against a group of missionaries. It was the sentiments against foreigners who were dividing China that brought to the Boxer Rebellion of 1900. And yet, in that sense, Freinademetz was brave enough that the missionaries should be protected, that reparation should be given. So out of that murder, the bishop answered, asked for 3 churches to be built by the Chinese government. They have to pay it. And security was given to the SVD missionaries, wherever they are, in South Shantung. And all those local leaders and even the governor were removed or were put down in promotion. But you realize the fire and boldness of Freinademetz, using even political system to address an issue of injustice. Well, that is what God makes of us. So Freinademetz would say, the missionary should always be prepared for a bloody death. That's the bravery of mission, not because we are strong, but only because we have faith in God. That is the same faith that any SVD encounters in any endeavors. The building of this SVD farm includes no other than an issue of faith. Sinong maniniwala na mula sa isang lugar na hindi naman ginamit ng mga SVD ng maayos ay tatayo isang napakagandang farm na pagkakaguluhan sa panahon ng pandemya, na pati kayo ay nauto para maniwala na may saysay gawin ang farm na ito, na ang mga seminarista at mga manggagawa ay magtanim sa panahon na kinukulang ang food supply sa Pilipinas, na may ecotourism sa Tagaytay sa panahon ng pandemya, dahilan upang isara ng ilang araw, sapagkat may mga bata, may bata pa ba dyan, na umaali-aligid dito. But to transform this not so maximized land into what it is now, and bring in a chapel with dedication to the Virgin of the Poor is an act of faith. Wala namang pera yung seminaryo. Nang hihinging lang yan. Wala namang kumikita dyan. Pero they never beg off from doing what their mission is. Training, forming, and educating future missionaries, not only of the SVD, but of the whole church, and bringing them to be courageous witness of faith in the world. And so this farm is deeply connected to who we are as a church in journey at this time of the pandemic. Beyond the needs that may be material to sustain us is a larger reality of its Laudato Si purpose. It is a response of us created beings to recognize the gift of the Creator and to take the challenge of ecological transformation and conversion deeply rooted into this farm. And so this is not only a love of God, a love of mission, but it is equally a love of the earth that is entrusted into our care, that we need to sustain. And so every seminarian and worker and patrons who come here realize the converting spirit to care long-term for this Mother Earth. That is expressed in that love of God. Joseph exemplified that love of Jesus. But Joseph also loved the Chinese. His love for people is very specific. It's a love that is truly embracing Chinese. Set aside the time that there was an anti-foreign sentiments, Joseph Freinademetz would take a walk right into the heart of any market, buy food, and would play and speak and share stories in the market, bringing magical tricks, narrating stories. And I think you understand the Austrian, yung may tumutugtog na pinipihit na ganun, ting, 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 ting. He would bring that little song, choo-choo, and play it at the amazement of children and adults. And that's where he starts sharing gospel stories in his own Chinese that has been perfected by his connection and his engagement with the Chinese. But his love for Chinese, he would say to his family, I love China. Para pa lang si Duterte to, no? I love the Chinese. I want to die here in China. And I want to be laid to rest among the Chinese. And if I am in heaven, I want to be with the Chinese. Overdose ng China to. When I was an OTPer in Taiwan, our meals, our prayers, our discussions, it was an LBM of Chinese. Everything about Chinese. Everything about their life, their mindset, their vision. It was as if those people have consummated our formation. It was what the heart of a missionary is. He has lost his own identity to be able to embrace a new people where he dedicated his life. And no doubt, it is in that land where Joseph lays to rest. Today, we remember missionary par excellence. I need to read much about this man whose life has been solely a dedication to a God who is supremely loved and to a Chinese to whom he is willing to lay down his life. We all are engaged in this common mission. You equally are in progress of doing your particular mission, beginning with our following of God. May the Virgin of the Poor be an instrument that in today's world it is the poor affected by the ecological devastation that are gravely affected that we need to make the big lift to stretch out and make an outreach. But as we reach out to them by our love of God and His gifts, we also realize that is precisely what love of neighbors mean to us now. May the Spirit of Freinademetz lead us, and may we be led by his motto when he says, let me quote, the language that all people understand is that of love.